Custom card videos are something I've done on this channel for more than a year, but I recently moved them to Twitch to make them more interactive. If you want to submit your cards, make sure to join the Discord and check me out on Twitch. With the help of Yuri, I'm here to present you with a bunch of sweet cards that I wish would make it into Legends of Runeterra. First card is made by Thunder. This is Quick Stab. 3 mana focus from Bandle City. Recall an ally with 3 or less power to summon a copy of it from your deck. We've seen some recall synergy in Bandle City with cards like Transfusion. We've seen Quicken, I believe, which is just recall a unit with 3 or less power. This can only recall an ally, and it will summon an exact copy of it from your deck. So this is really good with the Thunder Fist. This is obviously really good with Cannon. It's very, very good with Aloof Travelers. So I'm not sure if people are too happy to see that. But I think this effect is super cool because it really makes a lot of cards that are in Bandle City that want to synergize with Recall, make them a little bit more playable. Sadly, this doesn't really work with the Tornado Warrior because he will keep stacking her attack. So you can do this like twice on her if you're lucky. Not even twice, I think only once. We need more recall support in Bandle City because from what they're doing right now, I feel like it's all pretty balanced. It's not really too frustrating to play against. It's mostly recall for their own units. A 7 cost 1/1, that's another really, really good one. Yep, yeah, for sure. So that's, you know, it's funny when you think about it. You look at Ari Cannon, the very frustrating recall deck to play against, and then you realize that that entire deck is just Ionia. They're not playing any of the Bandle City cards because they're too fair. You know, they didn't want to make your opponent kill themselves when you play against them. So clearly those cards are not good enough for an Ionia deck. So with some recall in Bandle City, generally it's been pretty fun to play around with. All right, so that was the first card. This next card is... It's interesting, and I chose to display it here because there's a bit of a backstory. This one is made by the one and only, the artist, Solly's Crown. It's a lurk card. It's a 5 mana 2/6 from Shurima. Durzai Sandcrawler. Play, stun an enemy. When I lurk, summon me attacking. I chose this card because every single time, for as long as I can remember, Solly's Crown has submitted his cards, and every single time, they have been lurk cards. And I just think that's really funny. Every single time he submits lurk cards, and that's all. Okay, and this card, by the way, is really, really broken because you can do this on turn 1. So it's pretty good. I do like that there's 2 parts to this text though, because first of all, it says stun an enemy when you play it, and the second part is like summoning it when you attack. Just like the dragon we saw yesterday for Demacia that summons a dragon from your deck when he attacks. This card is very strong. It's a little bit broken. This would never be in the game. Next card is made by Vic, and this is honestly this is one of my favorites actually. 4 mana fast from Demacia, Sacrificial Leap. Summon a Selfless Vanguard, and a Selfless Vanguard is a 4 mana 1/3. Doesn't matter because you summon it. An ally is targeted by a damage, strike, or kill spell with only 1 target. It targets me instead. Your opponent is trying to vengeance something, like they're trying to vengeance your Garen. You say nope, Sacrificial Leap. The Selfless Vanguard gets summoned, and the vengeance will target this instead. It's like a deny, but it's very thematic for Demacia, and it's not exactly a deny because obviously it doesn't play around something like Ruination. Worst deny? It's a worst deny for sure, but so is Rite of Negation. The single best deny card is just in Ionia because there's no downside. It's nothing. It's just a click and deny a spell. But the thing is, it's like, it has more, I guess, functionality. The downside with Rite is that you have to sacrifice a minion or a mana crystal. But in return, you get that every single spell is denied instead. For this, it's the fact that you summon a unit. I don't know, maybe multiple spells will hit this unit instead of just one. It's very, very thematic for Demacia. And you can't just give Demacia like a straight up deny because it will break the region, right? Suddenly Demacia can do it all. But still, it's okay for a region like Demacia to have a worse deny because it's Demacia. I remember back in the beta, Demacia used to play the Allegiance cards, and their only splash was, I believe, Deny. Just because Demacia has a very hard time dealing with stuff like Ruination, right? Selfless Vanguard kind of like patches up that weakness. However, it still dies to Ruination, but cards like Vengeance, like I said, maybe a Mystic Shot on your Battlesmith or something will suddenly hit this. If a Vanguard takes a Mystic Shot that is being shot on your Battlesmith, it will only take 1 damage because it has stuff. So it's like, again, there's just many more applications for this card. All right, this next card is made by Shauner. Icy Transfusion. 2 mana burst from Freljord. Deal 1 to an ally to frostbite an enemy. I will say that this card to me looks very, very strong, but it's so thematic and awesome that I had to put it here. We don't really talk about the power level, right? The power level is like secondary to cool effects. If there's something cool we can display here, then I'll put it on here. But this should probably... No, this should definitely be 3 mana. But I love it when there are like 2 things that a region is very known for, and they come together in a card like this. We have the Scargrounds for Freljord. Pretty popular card. It's not the greatest card, but it's a fan favorite. And we have Frostbiting, something that Freljord is just very known for because they're the icy cold region, and they well, they frostbite stuff. With Ashe, with Sejuani, with other stuff. And these two things come together. Shauner made it a 2-mana card because the deal 1 to an ally seems like a downside. But the fact that deal 1 damage can be such a big upside for Scargrounds decks makes me feel that it is way too powerful at 2 and should be 3. Flash Freeze is 3 mana? Yeah, I know. So that makes... I get it, right? I get it. An effect like this would probably never exist in a game because it's way too hard to balance. At 3 mana, you just have like a side grade to Flash Freeze, which makes it kind of weird. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of card that would be perfectly balanced as a 2.5 mana. Lame Runeterra won't let us do half a mana. Big shame. Honestly, Aurelion Soul should be 9.5 mana. Heard it here first. This, I think this would be most powerful in a Scargrounds deck easily. This would honestly make Scargrounds deck just very, very powerful. Who knows? Maybe this would spawn like a Ashe Scargrounds deck, right? Super cool to think about. All right, next card is made by Scarf King. Future Sight. This was the very first card revealed in this submission cycle. So that's pretty cool too. You know, the first card is just a banger. 1 mana burst from Shurima. When you see me in a prediction, reduce the cost of the other card you see by 1. Predict. It feels really cool to take a mechanic that's already in the game and give it like some new effects that haven't been seen before. We have some more predict stuff down the line. I actually forgot who submitted it, but I know that it was very cool and play with the predicting too. Right now, we don't really have anything in the game except YURI, I believe, or like the drop border, where if you see something in a prediction, something happens rather than just picking it and getting an upside. It's not just a dead card if you draw it, right? But the cool thing about this card is that even if you draw it, it's not like a dead card. You can still predict with it. It's like an expensive Feral Prescience, but you can still use it. You know, it's not completely dead. And if you get a new card, you can use a card like Careful Preparations to put it back into the deck and then draw it again later. Or rather, see it in a prediction again later because you don't really want to draw it. I really, really enjoy seeing mechanics that are already in the game and then having something really, really cool done with it. Great job at this one. It's kind of similar to the last one, right? It takes a mechanic that's in the game, it combines it with some other effects, and then suddenly you have a mechanic just become infinitely more interesting. Next card, and I think this is actually the other predict card, was made by Nolan. I hope this is the one. No, it's not. Damn it. All right. Close enough. Curious Clone Bot. 3-mana minion from Piltover. Play, pick a follower, transform me into an exact copy of it this round. And it's a 2/2. I don't even know where to begin with this card because this is basically like Swap Bot, but so much weirder and so many more implications, right? So you play this card, you pick any follower, can be your own follower, can be an enemy follower, and then this becomes an exact copy, much like the 1/3 from Piltover that picks a follower and transforms into it. But this is only for 1 round. I think the biggest thing for this is going to be transforming it into some kind of last breath effect, so you can you can get the death rattle, the last breath. Why do I keep saying death rattle? I'm not a Hearthstone player, trust me. You get the last breath effect with like a really big upside because transform effects don't actually copy summon effect. It's only this round, so you really want to have a last breath effect, some kind of like challenger so you can kill something with it, anything really. But there's just a lot of implications, and I think Piltover is the perfect region for a card like this because they do so many wacky transforming. Sometimes this is good, sometimes this is bad, but you gotta find the right situation to use this, and then it can be an insane card. Piltover is perfect for that. All right, so that was Nolan's Curious Clone Bot. Next card is made by Andy. All right, this might be my favorite one just because of the name. The Taxigator. 4-mana 5/3 from Bilgewater. Play, grant an enemy vulnerable. If it already has it, nab 1 instead. Look at this art and the name. That's so damn cool. I would play this card just so I can make it like my deck's preview image. So cool. And yeah, it's really cool that this is an alligator too for Renekton with the vulnerable thing. It's a really simple card, but when a card's thematic is so on point like this one, I gotta put it on here. I keep saying this, but the whole package is important, right? It's like the name, the art, is it balanced? Is the card effect cool? Like, is the text on the card actually cool and something worth spotlighting? Is the card consistent with the wording? Those are all things you gotta consider. And this card nails every single aspect. It really does. And also, vulnerable is something that Bilgewater does. Next card is made by MC Paleo. Here it is. This is the other predict card I was talking about. Finally found it. MC Paleo. Gearhead Auxiliary. 3-mana 2/3 from Piltover. Play, predict. When you skip a prediction, draw 1 fleeting. Again, I love it when you take old mechanics and you make them do something new and interesting. In this card, you will be rewarded for skipping predictions. Time Trick is just a straight up draw 2. So if you're playing Piltover Bilgewater with a Twisted Fate on the board, you're just you're kind of gonna turbo that boy. But yeah, the stats are pretty bad. It's a 3-mana 2/3, but it has a potentially very, very powerful effect. So it is fair. And I will tell you guys this story too. I don't know if this glitch is still in the game, but back in my day, if you had concurrent timelines active and you skipped your prediction, you would not get a choice. The game would just crash. You never wanted to skip predictions with timelines active. Worst mistake of your life. Yeah, but it also has play predict, and it is an engine. So this secondary effect will always happen. Every time you predict and you skip, you will draw a fleeting card. But when you play the Gearhead auxiliary, she will also predict for you. So if you decide to play her, skip the prediction, you will draw a fleeting card. That's how this works. I like it a lot because how often do we find 3 choices and you're just like, yeah, no, I want none of those. Happens way too often. All right, and this card was made by Kalisa. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, by the way, because I've never actually said it out loud. Ice Witch's General. 6 mana from Freljord with regeneration. Would have summoned someone wants Frozen Troll. Round start, if you have 3+ Frozen Trolls or Frostguard Trolls. So Frostguard Trolls already hatched, the unthawed, or rather thawed. Will you have those? Advance allied Frozen Trolls 2 rounds. Warm Frostguard Trolls are warm trolls. Exactly. Okay, so yesterday we actually got some very cool Thrall support. Honestly, on a card that might even be a little bit too powerful. But this card was obviously submitted before that. So the problem with this card is a bit expensive. It's not great stats, but it does curve perfectly after your 5 mana guy, who I forgot the name of. And this is an engine. It happens every round start. I don't think this is really the best card in the set or the best card in a Thrall deck. But it's super cool. Thrall gets a card that allows them to play more into Freljord. It's right now you can't play Thralls without Shurima. With this card, maybe you could have a more Freljord-centric deck that plays with Thralls. Like maybe you can even play the Allegiance dude or something to make your Lysandra a little bit bigger. I don't know. But I just really want to see Thralls be a little more flexible in what they're allowed to do. And with this card, you can hatch your Thralls a little bit more effectively. You can make your Thralls warm a little more often. And that's exactly what you should be looking for in cards that get supported for older archetypes. This plus a 2 mana new card makes this less dependent from Shurima. Yeah, the Harbinger of Trolls or whatever. If you play that card plus this, it will make Lysandra just be the Thrall champion. And I don't know, maybe you could play her with I don't know, Ionia or something. All right, very cool card. Love seeing new cards support older archetypes. The next card is by somebody with a fantastic username called Business Hamster. The Power Hoarder. 2 mana from Shurima. Play, destroy one of your mana gems to draw 1 or deal 3 to an enemy follower. Finally, the unworthy support that we have all been asking for. Shurima, as a regent, tries to do a lot of like really weird combo-y cards, and then they're all around good cards. Play in every deck. Like Silver is pretty all around, Rockhopper is pretty all around. A lot of cards are like weird landmark combo cards, weird predict cards, and none of them really come together. And this is a card that would maybe make some of their mana destruction a little more playable. So Power Hoarder, if you destroy a mana gem on turn 2, you're going to be pretty far behind. I'm not sure if that's really something you want to do. So for that reason, would you play this card in your deck? Probably not. Would you make a deck around a card like Unworthy? Probably not, because there's no champion as payoff. There's not something extremely powerful that you're going to do. And Unworthy only destroys a follower. Just like this card can only deal 3 to a follower. Shurima, still the region that supports all their champions, and all their cards are not that great at dealing with enemy champions. They're good at dealing with followers, but not champions. So it's a very thematic card. It's cool to see some support for cards that are in the game that we'll never see play, but it's probably still not going to be good enough until there is a really big payoff. This is a cool top deck for sure, yeah. Maybe if you have Unworthy in your hand, you'll keep this in your opening hand too. Who knows? All right, so we'll go to Mirage now. It's a bit, it's very large. Mirage, this was made by N-Ray. All right, so Mirage, 1 mana slow from Shurima. Give an enemy -2, -0 this round. It starts a free attack. And this was made by N-Ray. You gotta read this text. Give an enemy -2, -0. Okay, so your opponent 3/2 cards now a 1/2, and then that 1/2 that just got their attack reduced starts a free attack. This is so damn cool. I love this card, by the way. This is up there for me for my favorites. It's very, very powerful because it's efficiently just removal, because you're forcing them to go into combat, and then you can play your Renekton or your Nasus or whatever and kill it. Yeah, you just ram it into a Renekton. Exactly. You ram it into a Garen. You ram it into anything that wants to strike, and it's super powerful. And this card, this is what Charm should be. People have been making Evelyn cards where they're trying to charm something, but this is the perfect Charm card. This should be Charm. Even enemy -2, -0 this round, it starts a free attack. It could honestly be Cataclysm too, where you're forcing something to get charmed, go into combat with you, and then, you know, you reduce their attack. I love this. Such an incredibly cool card. But it should be a lot more expensive because it's very powerful. This should be at least 3 mana. Yeah, because this is just a better Cataclysm, right? It's Giga Boss, yeah, it should be 4 mana. This is Cataclysm, but so much better. It's just better Cataclysm? Yeah, I think so too. It's on Shurima too. And you gotta be careful putting effects like this into Shurima. It is a side grade to Exhaust. I don't think that's true, because Exhaust is not a playable card on defending turns. This is playable anytime. Also, if you want to be really friendly, if you want to be a real bro, you're gonna be playing as Lurk, and you're gonna use this on one of their units. You can proc Lurk for your opponent. All right, yeah. Fantastic card, super thematic, super cool art. The whole package, it comes together perfectly, and it's a bit powerful. It's a bit too cheap for the effect because it can be so powerful. It's cool, so we're spotlighting it here. And the next and final card is by, I'll pronounce his full name, Alfred Fistcock, the Mist Assassin. A 1 mana 2/1 from Noxus. When I'm summoned, create a Blade's Edge in hand. This card is giga busted, by the way. This card will see play in every single Noxus deck going forward. So I actually think it should be like a 2 mana 2/2 maybe. But imagine playing this card with Swain. Imagine playing this with the newly revealed Lord Broadmane, right? The 6 mana 2/4 that we saw yesterday getting revealed, where it's like, from now on, every time you damage a stunned or damaged unit, they die. This would be so perfect for that. This will be in every aggro deck. Oh, you're right. Wait, you're right. This is a fantastic... Yeah, this is a Noxus staple. But I think this effect is really cool. And I personally really love it when cards, and we've seen this from the Treasure Seeker, take a card that is never played, like the Waking Sands, and they put it on a unit. It's like, this unit, when summoned, will give you that card. And that's this. Nobody plays Blade's Edge in their deck. The only time you ever see Blade's Edge is when you're playing a conch. You need to deal 1 damage at ping, like burst speed, fast speed, rather. Nobody sees this card coming from Katarina even. Because who plays Katarina except me? I wish they would do stuff like this more. Because the Treasure Seeker made us see a card they would never see play. That's honestly pretty cool. Like a 5/2 ephemeral that you can like use with vulnerable. You can use it as a blocker. It is very cool. It's very powerful. And this would be even more powerful than that because pinging is just incredibly powerful, especially for a region like Noxus. Absorb Soul is also a premium card for this type of card. I agree. Absorb Soul is absolutely something that Shadow Elf should get on a minion, like Treasure Seeker. All right, so that was that. We are gonna go over to the Shen submissions. And again, the goal here was submit a card that will help a Shen deck, that will make a Shen deck more playable, because right now we've not really seen any love for Shen ever since Fiora got nerfed, ever since Sharp Sight and Twin Discipline got nerfed, but even before that he didn't see much play. He was the fair part of Ionia, and when people play Ionia, they're not looking for fair. So poor Shen, left in the dust, but we're gonna try to make him a little more viable with some of these cards. I hope Riot's watching, because I like Shen, and we're gonna go with an honorable mention. This is number 4, and this will serve as an example. This is a 5 mana 4/4 made by the Legend 27. Kinko Protector. Has barrier. Play, give 2 allies barrier this round. So this card curves perfectly after Shen himself, and it will be +3 on his level up. Overstated. Yeah, I think it might honestly be a little bit too powerful with the stats. But this is exactly the kind of thing that would just be the perfect support for a champion. It's a skill, true. You have to put this on the stack before they get the barrier. That is true. That is true. Yeah, I think it shouldn't have barrier itself. I think that's the one thing. But I do like the fact that it's on a skill, because that gives counterplay. Opponents can react to that. So I think there are a lot of intricacies with this card when you play it that makes it very, very powerful, but also very interesting to play around it. All right, next card is made by MC Paleo. Again, MC Paleo has 2 cards here. The first one is the Slight Spirit. Give an ally barrier this round and create an Airy in hand. 4 mana burst from Ionia. You give an ally barrier for 4 mana burst, and you create an Airy in hand. Airy is a 2 mana 1/1 attach unit with barrier, and once he's recalled, transform it into Slight Spirit. What's interesting here, when a unit dies that has an attached unit on them, they will always get recalled. So as soon as the unit that this is on dies, you will get Slight Spirit back in hand. Paying 4 mana for just a barrier is pretty expensive, but the fact that you can kind of double up on it and give another barrier next turn with the attached unit is very, very cool and very thematic too for Airy. It's 6 mana for 2 barriers, but it's also infinite. It basically is, yeah. It's going to be pretty hard to yeet this Airy out of the unit. It's basically just a +1/+1 after the barrier, because of how hard it actually is to kill any unit in the Shen deck, right? I really enjoy this card. It's going to be pretty hard to play against. But yeah, for 6 mana, you basically get 2 barriers. And that's exactly what Shen spell does too, right? There are a lot more lines you can take with this. Like, for example, if you want to protect a unit in combat, you can play this in combat and get the Airy. And then you have to wait to play the Airy. But maybe you just want to set up like a really, really powerful turn, or you want to level Shen super fast, right? So you have your units, they're about to attack, you play the Slight Spirit at burst speed, and then you get the Airy in hand, and you instantly play the Airy too. Maybe that will level Shen and give him like a bunch of attack to attack with. Maybe you just really want that permanent +1/+1. Maybe that matters. For setting up powerful turns, and even sometimes using this on defending turns, get 2 barriers like super fast is super good. Does Face Sprout hit this? No, this is not a main deckable card. The Slight Spirit is. So you can't get this Airy unit anywhere else. We have a card by Bomba Kabamba, and again, it's 2 cards. The first one is a landmark, 3 mana, Ionia, the Green Glade. Countdown 6, summon a Green Glade Guardian. When an ally gets barrier, advance B1. And here's the Green Glade Guardian. A 6/5 with lifesteal. That's pretty good. I guess Tasty Faithful has been working out. What these cards are trying to do is give Shen a reason to play barriers without making Shen be the ultimate payoff. Right now, you only play barrier decks because you want to protect your units. But that's all there is. There is no ultimate goal. It's just the ultimate goal for barrier decks is I'm giving my unit barrier and I'm protecting it for value. But what if playing barriers actually meant something? Like this card. Playing barriers proactively will actually reward you by getting the Green Glade Guardian faster. And playing this card will notify your opponent like, hey, when we go into combat, there will most likely be a barrier. So I might have to save my Mystic Shot because my opponent will want to turbo this and get a 6/5 lifesteal as fast as possible. Very, very powerful. It is 3 mana though, and for a landmark, since you have to pay unit mana for a landmark, is pretty expensive, but that's very good. New landmark for Talia. Oh yeah, Talia would love this too. Topping this is very good. The Succulent Faithfolk. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, that is the Green Glade. And then the last card is made by Borofka, the local smith from Demacia. When an ally loses barrier, granted +1/+0 and tough. This is Scar Grounds for Shen decks. So I personally think that this should not give the +1/+0 because I really like the tough aspect of it. It's like if you lose your barrier, which will always happen at either round end or in combat, it will get tough. So it's like your units stay sturdy after they lose their protection. It needs to give +1/+1 and tough. That would be way too powerful. So this is an engine. You put it on the board. You're playing this in a barrier deck. So you will likely have barriers to go around. And once you give the local smith a barrier, he will give himself tough. I feel like they should not be able to do this effect on itself. Personally. I also think this would be a primary like a landmark card, but then we just get like another Scarground situation, and having that kind of effect on a unit is just a little bit more flexible, and I like it a lot more. Yeah, just giving it tough would be enough, I think. Yeah, super cool card, super cool support. Again, very interesting and unique effect for keywords that are already in the game like barrier, because again, the ultimate payoff for barrier deck is just supporting your units, protecting your units. But if there was more than that, all I'm saying. Yeah, this is also exceptionally good if you don't have a spell that gives barrier or a unit that gives barrier. It's really, really good if you just pop a unit on the board that already has barrier. I feel like these cards would also make stuff like the key barrier very, very powerful. The 2 mana burst speed that gives barrier to a card in hand. What if you gave this barrier in your hand with Key Guardian? You drop it, it loses the barrier, and then it gets tough. And then you have a very sturdy engine. You just go around all game. It could be really interesting if it only prog when barrier is lost in combat. That would be fair, I think, yeah. Is Luck Spell the only burst barrier? No, it doesn't. Well, oh, in Demacia? No, there's also Riposte. There's also Spirit Refuge, there's Shen Spell. And those were the custom cards. All right, do we want to do a vote? All right, I'm seeing a lot of Airy. All right, let's do this. All right. Favorite Airy Taxigator. Looks like we have a winner. It's Airy number 1, Mirage number 2, and Taxigator number 3. So Icy Transfusion is safe, but the Mist Assassin is gonna get shot by Jim because this one right here is number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.